pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Larry Kendall.
Here.
Greg J.
Here.
Gary Bennington.
Here.
Cindy Holland. Rick Deerwester.
Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
I believe Mr. Gander would like to address the council.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. New business, ADA translation plan?
All right, just to address, so back in April, I had reached out to NDOT and began working with NDOT. There were some areas of the town's ADA plan that were lacking, and the transition plan was, well, I think the only piece that the town had not addressed. I believe Mr. Galloway had worked on that previously prior to his departure. So I have reached out to some folks at a company called Commonwealth Engineering. They're here tonight to provide some information to the council on the ADA transition plan and on some other items. Maureen, Brady, if you'd like to address the council, and we can pull the.
Hey Rick, it's Greg. You want to go speaker on the meeting? All right, you're welcome. Hang on. Okay, we got Rick on the line.
If you'd like, we could get you set up here with the podium.
Sure. Can you hear us, Rick?
Yes, sir. Maureen.
Okay, so, hello, Larry, Greg, Gary, and Rick. Hello, Rick. I'm Maureen Hayden with Commonwealth Engineers. As Daniel said, he reached out to us a few months ago. We work with lots of communities around this area. In fact, we're working with the town of Spencer right now on a big wastewater project down there, which we help them get some funding for. But we also do some ADA transition plans, which I'll let my colleague Brady Dreyer talk about right now. We're glad to be here. We're delighted that you invited us, and we think that we could help you with the ADA plan, and we'd like to talk to you about some other services that we think we can help you with. We do engineering, but we do lots of water, wastewater, and stormwater projects. And really, we separate ourselves from other engineering firms in two special areas. One, we help with funding. We work with grant administrators like John Ford with West Central Indiana Economic Development District, who's here tonight, to help communities identify federal funds and state funds that help reduce the cost of those big infrastructure projects. And then we do regulatory work. We've got regulatory staff like Brady Dreyer, who's here with me tonight. He's a former item manager who helps, they help our clients navigate and negotiate their way through situations with IM. So I'll turn over to Brady to talk about the ADA plan.
Well, it's a good sign you didn't run me out when she disclosed I used to work with IDM. So, still standing, I see some smiles. As you know, Maureen had indicated, you know, Commonwealth Engineers, we've been in business for 45 years. We do work throughout the state of Indiana. If you look at the state of Indiana, we've got all of the stars and communities we've worked with. So, you know, we have been all over the state. You know, one of the things, I guess, just to kind of talk a little bit about the company. When I was at IDEM, the thing that I think made Commonwealth really attractive is because, you know, Commonwealth understood rules and regulations and how to navigate those things. And that's a really, you know, tough thing to do. Rules and regs, whether it's NDOT, like we're talking about the transition plan tonight, or IDEM, things are always changing. And sometimes, you know, knowing those things and having a personal touch with, you know, state officials can be a big help. So As Daniel gave a good outline of kind of where things stood with the ADA transition plan, and I think the big question is, why do we have to do this, and what is it? So it's the American Disabilities Act transition plan, and basically what it amounts to, as far as the town of Cloverdale is concerned, is that you have to have this transition plan in place in order to get funding, and that's federal highway funding. And that's in particular what's most important to a lot of communities like Cloverdale in the state is Community Crossings Matching Grant Program. And we hope, you know, that comes around soon enough. There's been a bit of a lull right now, but in order to get that funding and get eligibility, that's something we have to do. You know, we can go back to the rules and regs in 1973, that's when there's a section 404 when these ADA things took effect. Then in 1990, there was another rule requirement where these things took effect. So we need to think about it in a couple frames, but I think, you know, it's easy to kind of get lost in the weeds on this plan like you do with a lot of things, but you need to think about it in terms of accessibility. Okay, so that's accessibility to town hall here. That's accessibility to, you know, streets and sidewalks and things like that. So we gotta, you know, keep those things in mind. Now, that can even be accessibility to the website itself. So there are several things that Daniel's worked on and has in good order, but there are a few things that we need to do. We've got a grievance procedure. We've got the ordinance as well that we have to adopt. And there are a lot of other ins and outs. And one of the things that I believe has been circulated to the council is a Commonwealth Engineers contract, and there's a task order. And something that is very important within that is an attachment that kind of describes the details of what our assistance looks like with an ADA transition plan. The thing it's a very large part of this that we will work with the town is gonna be the inventory, right? So we've got to inventory streets and sidewalks and do some measurements and widths and slopes on the ramps and things like that. We have to do that inventory. The next step is going to be, what is our plan? How are we going to address our deficiencies? And you got to keep in mind, you know, this doesn't happen overnight. NDOT, the regulatory agencies, they don't expect that to happen overnight, but they do want a plan in place as to how you're going to address your accessibility deficiencies in the town. So once that's in place, we submit it and get it approved. Now, there's a few things too, bells and whistles that you have to do, one of which is to appoint a representative of the town to be basically the ADA rep. So that would be kind of the clearinghouse for, you know, complaints and things of that nature. That would typically be a town employee, street superintendent, town manager, whatever the case may be. So those are some of the kind of things that we go through, but in the next, you know, few months, we would be able to get this wrapped up, put this behind us so that we can look to the future, and as Maureen outlined, look at some funding opportunities for some sidewalk improvements within the town. So it's just kind of one of those, you know, ancillary things that we have to do and move forward with. So I believe, as I indicated, Daniel had circulated that contract. Let us know if you got any questions with that. One of the documents, the General Services Agreement, I won't go into the weeds with that, but that's a very long document that allows us, as we continue to work with the town, as we're looking forward to do, that when items come up and you need assistance, we can issue a 2 or 3 page document. We agree on what the scope and fee is, and then we move forward to meet your needs. So that's a quick kind of summary of the plan and the contract. I don't know if anybody has questions on any details that I mentioned through a little quickly, but
I can resend that contract out for all of you, so that you'll have a couple weeks before our September meeting where you'll have an opportunity to review it and really dig in deep, and we can ask questions, do what you need to do, and I've indicated with NDOT to NDOT that ideally we would have our transition plan by the 1st of 2021.
okay.
And they seem to think that would be fine. I have spoken with some of the folks in the in the street department. And they said the fall is usually a better season for them where they would be able to potentially help you.
Perfect.
I do have a couple questions, just if you could address potentially, earlier this year, the town had discussed looking at infrastructure issues down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And we had talked about, this was probably January or February, I think, about water rates, rate studies. Is that something that potentially over the next year, if the town was going to seek out some more information on that, is that something that Commonwealth would be able to assist the town with?
Absolutely, and I think, we were talking a little bit earlier, and Maureen can give a good idea on what availability is out there in terms of Okra grants and other things like that to do utility studies. And the thing about that is it's gonna be, short or long term as you make it. You take a big piece to address those needs, but a huge part of that is gonna be identifying what improvements need to be made to get your systems, whether it's your water system, we talk about storage, we talk about pressure, we talk about whether or not your treatment system needs, some attention, some replacement, things like that. The other thing that these studies would look into, that would kind of give you an idea on what your needs are, would be, looking at extensions, right? So looking, do we want to go north of 70? How far do we want to go with any kind of service, whether that's water or sewer service? So those kinds of items would give you certainly an idea on where you stand. On the wastewater side, we know we've got some capacity concerns. We know we've got some ongoing correspondence with IDEM. I know that these things are fresh in the town's mind with respect to recent agreed orders. So within such a study, we can look at how to address those needs long term. And part of what we got to keep in mind here is, particularly on the wastewater side, it all depends on what the town wants to prioritize, right? But we've got some capacity concerns, and that means that when we start to look at connecting up north and other areas, wherever they may be, we got to keep in mind what that's going to do to our system and how that impacts compliance. And such a study would look into that. Then moving into kind of the rate side, the financial management side, that is when we would look at what the funding sources are for sustainability and what that would mean. Maureen's done some preliminary evaluation on what the town's eligibility would be based on your median household income. Got different loan programs that are 20 and 40 years that would get we could get your facilities up to capacity or up to standards, whether that's IDEM or just operational standards, and then move forward with what we need to do to get there. So those are some of the things I think to keep in mind. And it's I'm from a small community, Greentown, which is just outside of Kokomo, and we have wrestled with those very same things. And my mother and grandmother are asking me, why are my bills so high? Well, the town needed storage here, and in that particular case, well, you guys were under a sewer ban, and there's literally neighborhoods just down the highway in a growing community that can't connect to sewer service. So it's just kind of, cutting things off. So those are the kind of, things that as a council, in terms of managing the town, you kind of got to decide what you want to prioritize, and, making sure that those needs are met when the opportunities arise.
And I would just add very, very briefly, because I know you've just taken this one step at a time. There are, and again, I didn't mean to put Senator Ford on the spot here, but he's with the Regional Planning Council, and I think he's scheduled to speak to you in your next board meeting. So grants are their specialty, all kinds of grants, and helping communities is their specialty. And so, for example, we've worked with the Regional Planning Council down in south of you to work with the town of Spencer. And we got them $700,000 in grant money to fix their infiltration and inflow issues, which is very common in lots of communities, as you know. And that has that helped leverage an additional project with the state DNR. The DNR is gonna pay the town of Spencer to take their wastewater, and the state is gonna pay for that for the town. They're gonna pay for wastewater improvements for the town. So that's you know, we work with grant administrators all around the state to help identify that. I mean, one of the small options right now is the Indiana Office of Community and Rural Affairs is really strongly encouraging communities to take kind of a holistic approach to their utilities and to do more planning, to kind of take a step back, if you will, instead of just going through and fixing your immediate issues, to take a step back and take a 20-year look at what you really need. And so they'll give you, you know, you've got to apply for this, but they've got a program where they can give you $90,000 if you could put up a local match at $9,000. And there are communities around the state that are taking advantage of that. Some communities that don't have the $9,000 have gone to their counties and asked for help with that kind of money. So there's all kinds of options as well. We really like those utility studies, if they're appropriate, if you don't really know what your immediate needs are, because they really do give you this kind of long view of what your needs are. They'll list every project that you need, but then more importantly, they'll help you set priorities, you know, and they'll help you identify your funding sources. And you can go from there. You can do as much as you want on those planning projects that turn out, or as little as you want. So they're just a good guide, and we think with the state so willing to invest in communities right now, the Office of Community and Rural Affairs, known as OCRA, they usually fund about 10 or 12 infrastructure construction projects twice a year. In this last round, they funded 17 of them. So I think they've got this federal money that's coming in through the COVID CARES Act, and they're trying to get it out the door as well. So I would encourage you to think about taking advantage of that. All you're doing is getting your own money back. I mean, it's money that you've already paid to the state and federal government, you're just getting it back. So we can talk about that with you whenever you're ready, so.
I want the council to know that, I can't say enough about Maureen and Brady. They've been extremely helpful, kind of assisting me navigating this, ADA issue, and so, that's why I requested they come tonight, kind of introduce themselves, because I think, you know, they put me in contact with Senator Ford, had an opportunity to speak with him, and there's a lot of possibilities out there for funding to help the town. It doesn't require too much, and so my goal is to hopefully get those connections in place for the council and for the town. So, and they're just a piece of that. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity, guys.
Sure, thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Alrighty, Rob Kendall.
Yes, you can come on up here, Rob. Just like to introduce Rob. Made contact with him a couple months ago, and he has been very helpful here over the last few months. We've been in conversation about the town's comprehensive plan and kind of that vision of where the town can go. I believe Rob has some abilities that he may be able to assist the town moving forward in a positive direction. So that's why I asked Rob to come tonight and address the council. So Rob, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, my name is Rob Kendall. Daniel's been awesome the past couple of months. We've talked several times, and he kind of reached out to me. My mother grew up in Cloverdale. My dad grew up in Terre Haute. They went to Indiana State when Larry Bird was there, so I have a lot of closeness to the area and friends out here as well. And he had kind of told me about the forward progress that the community's taken the past several months, and there's a lot of really good stuff going on. And Daniel kind of said, hey, the council's interested in how do we move forward from here? How do we go, as Mike Pence used to use the phrase, good to great. And I said, well, you know, I've got a little experience in that. I served on the town council in Brownsburg from 2012 to 2015. We cut tax rates 18.5%. We fully funded $50 million worth of infrastructure. Served under Governor Pence as the pharmacy board director, served for Suzanne Crouch when she was a state auditor, and served on the redevelopment commission, planning commission, and we did a lot of really good things. And so Daniel said it'd be great if you could come talk to the council. And I said, well, before we have some big elaborate plan for everybody to look over. I wanted to get to know you guys, find out, you know, what the goal is, what we'd like to see, how fast you want to get there. There's a million different ways to get to California, but you got to pick a way and you got to go and see if I can be of help, get to know you guys, figure out kind of some of the things you're looking for in someone to help facilitate the forward progress of the community. And he said, hey, the 27th would be a great day to come out and say hello. So here I am. So I guess, you know, Daniel and I have talked a little bit about this. I kind of want to hear from you guys about where you want to go and how fast you want to get there, because Maureen has been really articulated well. There's a lot of options out there, and as bad as things are in this country right now related to illness and public health and issues of that nature, there's a lot of opportunities out there right now. And one thing I'm sure Maureen would having worked for the Lieutenant Governor, would back up is the state and federal government, they like people who have plans. They like people who have ideas. They like people who can tell them exactly what they're going to do with that money when it comes to them. And that is a really important part of whatever plan that you're going to put together. And I'm happy to help facilitate that in any role that I can. But I wanted to just get to know you guys, and I guess I'll kind of turn the floor over to you a little bit and see kind of what we're looking where we want to go and how fast we want to get there.
Yesterday would be great.
Because she's right in some of the things that she touched on, which is they seem like little things in the broad picture, but they're very, very important. I mean, you would have problems right now. Certainly a restaurant of a large scale would have an issue building here right now because of some of these issues that haven't been resolved. And you're on a great path to get those resolved. But those are issues that any mainstream large entrepreneur, corporation, whatever is going to look at are these things, because they have to have that in place, obviously. So those are some of the things that they're going to look at. And a lot of these things that you're talking about doing, whether it's businesses or restaurants or homes with higher assessed value, all these things sort of tie in together to things that Maureen is talking about: water and sewer capacity, the rates of those things, the tax rate, the ADA compliance plan. All of these things tie together. It's a great time to have this opportunity, because with Terre Haute and the casino potentially going in and the attraction that's going to bring to 70, which obviously you have a built-in marketing tool there, and your TIF district extends along 70, which TIF is Indiana's greatest gift to communities, and you guys have done a wonderful job of placement of that TIF district. And a large part of what we did in Brownsburg through the Redevelopment Commission was done via TIF district, and you can get really creative in terms of using right-of-ways in TIF, and you can use those TIF dollars in areas through the right-of-way that can benefit the whole community. So there's a lot of creative ways that you can get where you want to go, but it's a lot more complex than we want to bring XYZ to our communities. I'm sure you guys are finding out. So I'm kind of looking for what you guys are looking for and how I can help, and what you guys think I can do best to help facilitate that.
I'm thinking we need to sit down and
Just kind of mull things over, because
Yeah.
as I think you're probably heard or aware, we're going through a transition. We want to go from the old to the new.
Right.
And the new is addressing some of these situations with water and sewer. Having you here right now, I mean, these are some of the things we want to move forward with, but we're learning as we go.
Yeah, and Daniel's done a tremendous job, as I'm sure you guys all know, in terms of keeping this ship on course. And he really has put you guys in a great place. And your comprehensive plan, I read through it last year and then had a chance to read through it again over the past couple of weeks. Your comprehensive plan is really a great guide. Putting that together, the facilitation of that really does kind of spell out what the community actually wants. And so many of these communities either don't put the time into putting those together, or they let them collect dust on a shelf. And you know, your comp plan really, again, all those that were involved, and I know it was a huge effort, really does serve as that guide map. And it's really a booklet that you can kind of follow if you just get these nuts and bolts in place. It's just like building a house. They're talking about foundational issues, and then you get the fun part of designing what goes in the house and how many floors and how many windows and whether you wanna put a pool in the back. And so you have a lot of these options in terms of, do you wanna attack your downtown redevelopment first? Do you wanna commit those resources to 270? And it sounds like your clerk treasurer's done an awesome job, that you have some more resources maybe even than you thought before, coupled with having some folks who know how to seek out these additional state resources. Because, and again, I'm sure, not to put her on the spot, but I'm sure she'll back up, the state loves success stories. They love that good to great. They love taking communities that look to the state to help them pull themselves up by their own bootstraps and thrive. That ends up in campaign commercials. You know, that's a wonderful thing. And look, Cloverdale is set up to be that because of this amazing marketing tool, which is Interstate 70. I mean, the opportunities are unlimited. It's really an incredible time, especially with that casino getting ready to go into Terre Haute. You guys are just poised just to skyrocket if you do these little nuts and bolts things. As I'm sure you guys know, they say this all the time in the stock market. It doesn't matter who wins the election, Democrat, Republican. There's good news, there's bad news, there just is no uncertainty, and you guys are on a path right now with some really great people to get that certainty that businesses, that the state, the federal government is looking for, and it's really a great time for what you guys have in front of you.
We just not too long got off of the idea of the second degree, and we're getting close, maybe going back if we don't get something done with the I&I here in town. That's one of our biggest problems right now.
Yeah, those IDIM guys are the worst.
Absolutely.
But it really is, and you're touching a great point, which is you look and naturally you do say, oh, this is really terrible, but you have a real opportunity with that for the state, because again, the state looks at it as, we've told communities, we tell communities what we want them to do, and it's, in a weird way, it's like parenting. If the child, in this case the municipality, does what you tell them to do, they go, okay, they know how to play ball. That will be a good investment of our money in this community, because they've proven they take what we say serious, they value our opinion, and we know that we can trust them going forward. So you're right, that's a huge issue. The water and sewer issue is another huge issue, but there's real opportunities inside of what you might initially look at and say, that looks kind of bad. So I think you guys are one or two good decisions away from being in a really good spot.
We work with communities that have these I&I issues. They're not, Brady can speak to this, and they're not uncommon. You're not the only community that's struggling with these infiltration to inflow issues.
I was just gonna say, in particular, over the last few years, the capacities that, the wastewater going to your sewage plant, that's all metered, and policing those capacities is something that has really just kind of stepped up over the last, I'd say, 8 years or so. There were about 10 or 12 years that really they weren't evaluated, but now it's very constant that every couple of years you're gonna see letters and notifications associated with that. And what do the state officials want? Just like we're hearing a theme, a plan in place to address it. And like you had indicated, sir, you may be one step away from an agreed order consent decree, and that's highly likely, but you're more likely to avoid that if you demonstrate that you do have a plan in place.
And can I just add, I think that we would all, that Rob and Brady would, and Senator Ford would back me up, it's better to come up with a plan before the state forces you into a plan. You can end up in a very difficult situation if you get to the point where the state forces you into a plan.
And the community where I grew up and still live today, Brownsburg's a great example. 86 or 87, it was a sewer related issue, got so bad they had a building moratorium. I mean, they had to address their sewer plant, and those were some really dark times for the community, but over time, they started putting a lot of these things in place, and by 2016, they were the third fastest growing community in the state. I mean, I realize it's a broken record at this point, but it's not a death knell. It's not the end of the world. The state has no interest in coming in and taking over your town. They don't. They want you to dictate your own future. And an amazing thing about Cloverdale, if you look at that map up there, and again, I can't express enough how what a great job the town did in putting that TIF district together. One of the reasons Carmel, and again, I'm not saying everybody wants to be Carmel, but one of the things that they, and these other thriving communities, especially in terms of commercial development, one of the reasons they are thriving is because they started with a blank canvas. A lot of these more Asian communities didn't get that luxury, but with all the land available here in Cloverdale and with CBRC and some of the attractions already in place, you have that blank canvas. You can make this town whatever you want it to be, and that's an amazing position to be in, to have a built-in tourist attraction, to have a business already out there to serve as an anchor, which is a key to any redeveloped area. You guys are in a great spot. You're awesome.
So when I had spoken with Rob, we went over the comprehensive plan and talked just briefly about kind of some of the Main Street properties. We also talked about maybe development up towards I-70, and so maybe we could schedule an opportunity to sit down with the rest of our council. We've got a woman by the name of Cindy who's at work this evening, and then
Rick's jobs.
I know, right? Rick, he actually wanted to be here, but he's actually having to work. I think he's on the road tonight, but he's here via telephone. But this might be a great introduction, and then hopefully we can sit down again and potentially look at maybe identifying a listing of, okay, these are maybe some hot button or hot areas that we want to potentially look at.
Yeah, I'm definitely anxious and excited now.
Well, good. I've done my job.
Yes, you have.
Yeah, and I'm happy to do it whenever you guys want, because like I said, Daniel and I talked, I know you're looking potentially at hiring a new town manager, and I don't know, if there's jobs that mix together. I want to just be of help. I've got many friends in the community. As I said, my family is from here, some of them still reside around here. And so I want to help, and I want to let you guys set whatever that blueprint is and figure out if I'm the right guy to help you guys go forward. So, if it's okay with you guys, just continue to work with Daniel and kind of set up a time, and we'll do it up. Sounds like all right. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
You wanna go ahead and do town manager?
Yes, and I made a mistake. Not a big mistake, but I did make a mistake. When we were talking about items to add to the agenda, I did forget one. And it's a good item. We have a woman by the name of Rachel Scott. She's here with us this evening. She would like to be on the planning commission. And so we would need to just get her approved. So I'm so sorry, if we could go back and just add that to the agenda. I told her how excited I am to have her and her husband recently moved to the community, and they're wanting to get involved, and so that was a positive. And so she's here with us tonight, and I hope we can get that added as well.
Would you like to go ahead and do that now?
Sure. Rachel, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, so my name's Rachel Scott. We just recently purchased a home in Cloverdale. I grew up in Greencastle. My husband grew up in Fillmore and Cloverdale, actually. And we joined the Air Force, left Putnam County. We were away for a while. We moved back to Indiana, but we lived in Indy for about 5 years. We have a beautiful daughter. Had to move to Philly for a couple of years for her. And when we moved back, we wanted to come back home. So we lived in Quincy for about a year while we were looking for a place to buy. We found the Galloway home, and it was perfect for us. We love cows, so we love it. So we purchased it, and now we're homeowners here in Cloverdale, and we're wanting to make a great impact on our community. So that's me in a nutshell. Oh, and I work at Riley Children's Hospital, so I help special needs parents afford their children and their medical bills, and I help them ease the transition from thinking about typical parenting to parenting children with special needs. So that is my career, so.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thanks.
Okay. And who appoints her, Daniel?
Well, let me pull up my here. Thank you, Kelly, for getting that for me. Larry, this is your last, one of your ones.
Okay.
It is your appointment, Larry.
Okay, is there any, discussion, Gary? Gary? Great.
I spoke with Rachel at the planning meeting the other night, so yes, I'm in favor.
Okay. I will appoint Rachel Scott to the Planning Commission. You're now a member. She will have to take it over, is that correct? Okay. You'd see her take your oath
Now or?
after the meeting.
Okay, sorry.
That's fine. Okay, town manager duties.
Okay, just to give you a little bit of information, Kelly, our awesome clerk treasurer, she has, yes, put together some items for the council's review. Really, this is outstanding. We've been talking to, what's that?
That was from the council that they had put together a while ago.
Oh, okay. Okay.
She just found it.
You've read it.
Oh, okay, perfect. Well, I still think Kelly is great, so, with this, this is potentially a job description for the town's town manager. Now, we've been in conversation for the last several months about hiring, this individual. We had our budget, meeting just a few weeks ago. We got the green light to replace the town manager, and I would greatly encourage the council to begin this process. There is a void in the town currently because there is really no administrative head to communicate between the different areas of the government, of the town. There's not really any supervisory element for our employees. Additionally, and I think more importantly, I'm sure Maureen actually could probably elaborate on some of this. She works in multiple municipalities around the state. Having a good town manager will assist Cloverdale in not only developing, I guess, a vision for where the town is going, but implementing the steps needed to get the town to that point. And so, in addition to bringing in grant funds, that's something that our town manager should additionally assist us with. So, this is potentially a job description for a town manager position. So my request from the council tonight would be to review that, have some conversation on it. I would be interested to know a pay range, potentially what you would want the town manager to be at. I guess potentially depending on this person's experience, what they would bring as an applicant. I think that could impact where they would fall in that salary or pay range. But I would caution that you pay for what you get in some of these instances. So, when thinking about what potentially the town would want to allocate for a salary for a town manager, we would ideally have someone who's either been experienced in this role or has a background where they could step in and take charge and start meeting these responsibilities. So, I'll turn that over to you guys.
Well, I think we need to kind of review this because we've been talking about possibly incorporating some of the code enforcement and things like that into this job. So I think we need to finalize what our job description or responsibility is going to be before we can get into the salary side of it.
Okay.
Agreed.
I will say too, obviously I can't, I just want to encourage you, this is probably gonna be needing to be done if the town council is wanting to hire a town manager sooner rather than later. The void that not having this person is in some ways it is keeping the town stagnant, and it's difficult to have that supervisory or administrative lead. But I also spoke with someone with a state agency this week, and their perception of the town is that there's no one in charge. And so that could really potentially have an impact in terms of, I guess, punitive type things that could potentially happen to the town. So in speaking with that individual, I did encourage them that the town is proactively working on steps to look at hiring someone. So I just wanted to present that to you, let you guys review that. Steve is a magician when it comes to Indeed and ZipRecruiter. So as soon as the council is, kind of a little more solidified in what it's looking for in a town manager, we can get that job posting out there and hopefully get someone hired relatively quickly.
Do you think this could be finalized in September meeting?
I would think so. What I can do here over the next couple of weeks, I can give you all, if you want to review this, and Rick, I'm sure you can hear me.
Yes, sir.
We'll get your copy to you as well. What we'll do is, I can meet with each of you individually, and we can talk about, give you time to review this and look at potentially, things that we would want to get added on here as responsibilities, potentially looking at code enforcement. And then we could get that job description finalized, potentially get it approved at our September meeting, get the job application out there, and maybe have someone hired by October. That would be great. Cross our fingers.
Okay.
So, do you guys have any questions on that?
I do not.
I'll get a copy for Cindy as well.
Okay, is that all?
All I have.
Okay,
Mr. Gibbon.
Don?
Well, I thank the council for their time to consider this issue. And what this is the deed restrictions that I presented to the Plan Commission Tuesday night. And being that there was a lack of a quorum, they did not pass it or deny it.
We reviewed.
But I told them at the meeting that I would bring it to the town board without recommendation from the Plan Commission. So here I am, and if there's no glaring items that you folks think that I need to omit or replace in these deed restrictions, I would ask for a comment that they be approved.
Okay, Sunset Ridge is where?
This is the plat that was approved by the town board at the south entrance of Stardust Hills.
Okay, I thought it had a different name at that time.
It's Sunset Ridge.
Okay.
Yes, it is Sunset Ridge.
Done. Is that right here?
I have a photostatic copy of the plat right here, and that's the plat that
That's those plans we approved.
I was just confused on the
The
name.
name.
I think you named the street Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah, Benjamin.
that was previously approved.
Yeah.
And what this is on advice of my counsel, my attorney, recommended that I bring these deed restrictions past the Plan Commission and the town board before I recorded them, become part of this plat. Because we will not have a POA.
You have a question?
Yes.
These are restrictions that go on the deed that the new homeowners have to follow?
Yes, yes. And as it says in these restrictions, that they will be enforced by the developer until 80% or more of the lots are sold. And at that time, the responsibility of enforcement shifts to the homeowners or the property owners within that area. I don't know that I'm gonna be the exclusive developer to see all of this area developed or not. I don't know what God's plan is for me.
Like you were already looking at this, did you have any problems with it? I didn't see anything that was outlined. I think we were all pretty much in agreement that that was fine. You just didn't have quorum. Yeah. So, we've got a.
I just got a couple questions, Don. Are these holding up your development in any way?
Pardon me?
Would, if the council took time to review this before our September meeting, would that delay your development any?
Yes. I'm under the gun. I have a house on order that's being built and it's getting ready to ship. I need to get a building permit. And to get the building permit from the county, they want this area recorded. To get it recorded, I would like to have these deed restrictions included in the plat by a number that is assigned by the recorder's office in Greencastle. And they assign a particular number to this, to these regulations, these rules, and that becomes filed with the plat itself. So it's a recorded document that the building inspector's office wants that plat recorded before they issue a building permit. And we can't row the boat without water, we can't have water without the dam, and we gotta build the dam.
Do you guys have any questions? I just wanna make sure that these conform with the town's ordinances on.
There's nothing in here that is,
I know there's,
hasn't been recorded previously, in other documents that are currently, recorded.
okay. Well, my only concern would be so what are you referring to? Are you referring to, I mean, I think it would depend on what you're referring to when it was recorded. Because the town's ordinances have been updated since maybe, well, I think it was in 2014 with the subdivision ordinance. So I would just wanna make sure that this is in conformance with the subdivision ordinance.
So can we approve this under the stipulation that it will be reviewed for that before?
Well, have you guys read this? Have you had an opportunity to read it?
Planning meeting, I did.
Okay. I mean,
Larry?
Not really.
I think that, my advice is that you would read it, ask questions of Don before you approve anything. That would be my preference. I know that probably is not most convenient for him, but even if that required a special meeting, maybe a week,
So
just give you time to read it.
Let's do that. Let's give it time to let all the council members review it. Because we have seen it in the planning, but again, we didn't have the quorum. So if we can do that and then set up a special meeting so Don can get rolling.
My calendar.
And that will give you an opportunity to also verify and confirm.
And maybe we can do the, town manager salary
At the same
type too, if we do something before the next,
By the
you know,
annual
tax.
meeting.
27th.
Yep, all day.
Goodness. September. Well, our next town council meeting is on the 8th, so it'll be just over a week and a half. Could we look at it, I mean, that's your decision, I just wanna make sure you have enough time to review.
I would like to wait until
Yep.
next meeting. Wow.
And then if you can
It's,
review it, Daniel.
Sure.
Okay.
It really is difficult to move ahead and to get things done. on a timely basis.
Well, Don, if you recall, you put us under the gun last time, and to my knowledge, you have not broke ground yet, have you?
I'm trying to stay within the rules.
Well, you told us at that time that you needed us to make a decision because you had to break ground. The ground has not been broken yet, so we need this extra time.
It has been surveyed, it is staked, we have mowed it, and that the town does not have, at this time, any building inspector, or any place for me to go with for a permit to get this done, and it would have been done had the town had a building inspector
We
that
do
was
have a
capable
building
of doing a damn thing.
We do have a building inspector, Don, the counties.
Well,
Thank you. If there's nothing else, call this meeting adjourned.
Do we need Facebook questions or?
Thanks, Rick.
No,
Oh, hang on one second, Rick, cause I think,
Okay.
oh, no Facebook questions?
we're good.
All right, it's good, Rick.
Okay,
Thank
all.
you.
Thank you, Rick.